In this series, we're trying to fix and flip bikes until I can afford an e-bike for my dad. In this episode, we're going to find and flip the next bike and see if we can increase our current cash pot of £170. Right, so it's been a bit of a nightmare morning. So there's a bike that I've had my eye on for a while now it's been listed for 7 weeks. It's on for £250, and as you know, I've got a budget of £170. So I put in a cheeky offer of £170 using my entire budget, and unfortunately it was rejected. I offered to pick it up today, but unfortunately they just weren't interested in that offer. Maybe that's the reason it's been on for 7 weeks. It needs quite a bit of work to it, but it's a £300 bike any day of the week. So unfortunately that didn't work. So my plan today is to get a bike that doesn't need too much work doing to it, so I can flip it, get a little bit more money, and then see if I can persuade that buyer to maybe do 200. So I found a bike that isn't too far away from me, that they're willing to do a good deal on, and I think I should be able to flip this one pretty quickly. So stick around to see what I've bought. This is a 2012 Voodoo Hoodoo, which I purchased for just £100. Now let's get it back in the workshop and have a look at what we need to fix before it can be sold. So in terms of things that are wrong with this bike, immediately looking at it, there isn't anything particularly major. The tyres are flat, and I think there's a puncture with the inner tubes. That's on both of them, because when I bought it this morning, they were fully pumped up to pressure, and now they're both not. So it's the cost of an inner tube in each tyre. I've got 26-inch inner tubes, so that's not a problem. The gears work pretty well. They just need a bit of a tune-up. I don't think they need a recable or anything like that. They feel pretty smooth otherwise. The chain, I just used the chain wear checker, and I think it's probably just about to go into that 0.75 mil of wear. So it's actually still within tolerance. I think actually it's probably worth just keeping it on this bike for probably the amount that it will be ridden after. Unlike the last bike, the hubs feel pretty good. There's no play, no wobble. I checked while I was picking it up as well to make sure they're true. So apart from the obviously flat tyre, the actual wheel itself is true. So that's good. So this time we've got hydraulic brakes. I think they're actually bled exactly to how I would want them. So they don't feel too spongy. I think they'll be okay. The grips are, again, they're pretty nice grips, and I'm probably going to keep them on there. So I think really what we need to do on this bike is get it really nicely cleaned up, get the frame polished, see if we can get some of the dirt out of chain rings and stuff like that, put some new inner tubes in it, maybe just tune the bike up, make sure none of the bearings are worn out, bottom bracket's okay, headset, that sort of thing, and then list it for sale and see if we can make a bit of profit to get up into that next bike. One thing that I've just spotted before I take the bike outside to wash it is just how contaminated that disc rotor is. But as luck would have it, yesterday I was in Aldi and I picked up this brake cleaner for really cheap. It was on sale, so we can use that to get that disc back up to scratch, because it's actually not worn, there's no lip on it, it's just, as you can see there, the discoloration. And so yeah, really we need to take this whole brake apart, take the pads out, decontaminate it all, and as long as there's life left in the pads, I think that should be good to go again. Not wasting any time, I took the bike outside for a quick wash. I used some Fenwick's degreaser and a medium bristled car wheel brush to get in all the nooks and crannies. I'm not too fussed about causing little scratches to the paintwork, as I'll be polishing it up later on. Once I'd done that, I gave the drivetrain a clean, again using the degreaser. As you can see with the cassette, this came up really nicely. To decontaminate the brake rotors, I sprayed on the brake parts cleaner and then scrubbed the rotors with a scouring pad and some light sanding paper. This got the finish looking visually very close to the factory finish, so hopefully that should stop them squealing and improve brake performance. I then removed the brake pads and sanded the contaminated surface back so that the uncontaminated surface was then showing through. I probably could have picked a flatter surface to do this on to avoid unlevelling the pads, but visually they came up pretty well. So moving on, I quickly changed the inner tubes to repair the slow punctures. I'm usually pretty quick at this, but this time it took me just under 10 minutes to change the pair. The paintwork on the frame was definitely starting to show its age, having a lot of dull spots and light scratches. I used some T-cut and a light amount of pressure to buff up the lacquer to a nice shiny finish. This really made the red paint pop again and certainly freshened up the look of the bike. So after the relatively minimal amount of work to do on this bike, all that was left was to tune up the gears so that it shifted nicely again, and here is the final result.
When I've seen people in the past do quick flip type videos on cars where they just clean them up a little bit and then like doubled or tripled their money on it, I've always just wondered what actual value have you added. And I'm a little bit on the fence with this one because it is a little bit like that, but I have, you know, improved the brakes and I have improved the drivetrain and made it feel a lot better. You know, it visually looks a lot nicer as well. So I think in terms of value added, there is a little bit there. Although I think I'll be doing probably not as many of these quick flips because they don't make as good a story as doing the full restoration like we did in the last video.
I then took some high quality photos of the bike and got it listed for sale.
Right, so it's been a hectic 24 hours. Starting yesterday morning, I went to go and purchase the Voodoo for £100. I then spent a few hours during the day getting the bike cleaned up and addressing any issues to get the bike up to a nice standard. But really, the idea was to quickly flip this so we could generate some cash for the other bike that I'm interested in. So I then took some photos of the bike and got the listing live yesterday evening. I priced the bike at £190, which I think was actually quite a competitive price. But I was woken up early this morning by a message from a gentleman who offered me £160, but he wanted to buy this morning. I thought, do you know what? Speed is the game here. I'm going to take his offer. So I popped in the car, dropped the bike off with him for £160. Now, in terms of my costs on this, apart from some inner tubes, which I just had lying around anyway, I didn't really have any consumable costs. So I'm happy to call that a profit of £60 in the bag, which means that our total pot has gone from £170 to £230. Now, as soon as I sold the bike, I immediately messaged the guy about the next bike that I'm interested in. Because I've now got a little bit more money, I was able to offer a little bit more. And thankfully, he agreed. So I've actually got it in the back with me. I've just been to pick it up right now. Now, it's a bike that I'm really excited to work on, actually, and I think there's potentially a load of profit in it. But the caveat is that I think it will be a slightly more difficult bike to sell. So you might have to bear with me while I flip this bike for the next episode. Anyway, thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.